Welcome back to the Building Bigger Lives podcast. I'm Kathryn Peterson, again with my host, Michael Regan. And today we have a guest. We love our guest interviews. We have Peter Zevenbergen, and he is with NEO. He's a branch manager and has been in the mortgage business for over 20 years. He also does a lot of work in his town with the chamber. He was on the board there for 6 years and even did a stint as the chamber board president. He volunteers. He's got 2 kids that keep him busy and a lovely wife. And he's here to talk to us about a little bit different strategy that's setting him apart. So we're excited to talk to him. But first, let me welcome in my co-host, Michael Regan.
Kathryn, thank you. I'm really happy we can do this today. This is fun for me because at least on my recorded screen, I've got each of you, one to the left, one to the right, and both of you, I had the opportunity to meet on my coaching journey as each of your coaches maybe 10 years ago. And so that's kind of fun for me to get to be on screen with both of you. And Peter, before I bring you into the frame, I just want to let you know how much I've appreciated our offline conversations over the years. It's one thing to have a client that you get to work through a typical coaching rhythm and routine with, but Peter, you and I've had probably as many offline, we're out walking the dog conversations as we have actual coaching calls. And I look back on those and realize so many things you're doing are not the same as what everyone else is doing. And I was really excited to bring you onto the podcast today because I really believe that some of what you're doing is the kind of thing that more people need to be thinking about. They'll never be able to copy what you're doing, but maybe they can learn from some of the ideology behind it and therefore find a niche of their own. But before we unpack that niche, Peter, thanks for joining us today.
Oh, thanks for having me. It's a real pleasure.
Yeah, we've had other opportunities over the years to meet live and in person, both down here in the Valley of the Sun where I am and up in the Pacific Northwest where Peter is. And somehow we managed to take advantage of those seasonally. I tend to see you down here when it's winter time and up there when it's summertime. We must be playing our cards right on this. Kathryn, I want to let you tee us off with our discussion today, but the thing I hope we really get into is some of Peter's unique value proposition, because it's clearly there and it'll be fun for our audience to get to hear about it. But maybe we ought to start with a little bit of how did we get here in the first place? So bring us into the fold.
Okay, great. So Peter, let's talk a little bit about how you found the mortgage industry and what those first few years looked like for you.
I started in the business in 2004 and didn't realize at the time the fact that I could fog a mirror made me qualified to be hired. And then immediately started, I was buying leads before lead gen was really a thing. And I got really lucky that way because it gave me a lot of what I would call ups and the ability to have a lot of experience with leads that didn't necessarily have a relationship attached to them. I transitioned from there. I was a broker shop and then I went to work for an independent mortgage bank and then have kind of worked my way through different various levels of leadership within different mortgage bank platforms over the last, since 2007. And now I'm at NEO and I'm a branch leader there and spend the majority of my day in my mortgage advisory roles. I think for most of your listeners, anyone that's in the mortgage business, the mortgage origination piece is, I would say, kind of pretty standard. Once you've been doing it long enough, it's not, there's not a lot of new tricks. But along the way, I'm a part of a group, a Vistage group. So I have a trusted advisory group with about a dozen leaders that I meet with every month. And we did an activity about 5 years ago where we were working at finding kind of the way to describe yourself. So the whole like, oh, so what do you do for a living? Which is kind of that Chamber of Commerce thing. What's your business card say? And it's like, oh, I'm a loan officer. And everybody goes, oh, and they know what that is. So conversation kind of dies. And so what I learned was this technique of, I came up with this 4-word title for myself, which is I'm the purposeful collaborator of relationships, which causes everyone to say, well, what the heck is that? And that has become over the last probably 4 years, especially post-pandemic, post being when rates went up. It was like, well, okay, I don't have my value proposition is no longer I have cheap mortgage rates. So now what am I going to do? And what had happened was we all forgot how to network. And so I started building some different networking tools that really helped set me apart and helped me grow my business beyond just realtor referrals. I would say probably over half my business comes from financial advisors.
Yeah, Kathryn, I got to experience some of that unique connector of relationships that Peter describes, because about 2 years ago, he brought me up to the Kirkland area outside of Seattle, and we hosted an event at his club that was made up of Vistage members, clients, part of his referral network. He really had a nice mix of people. I don't know, 30, 35 people in this room. We took them through a version of the life planning day, which was similar to the interview we had with Greg Harkavy. We pitched it as life planning as a business strategy, that this is really going to be helpful to you. And I got to see in real person what you're describing, Peter. There are such a unique mix of people that showed up, and that's just a microcosm of the larger network you have. When did you start thinking of your network the way you think of it? Because so many folks in our mortgage lending space think of their network as either their realtors or their past clients, but you see a much wider lens than the average person. Was that natural to you, or did someone coach you through the wider lens of your network?
I suppose it came naturally. It's funny, you guys recently did the gap and the gain, and the gain is if I took the 27-year-old me and said, here's what your network looks like. I mean, I would be just, it's like, wow, like that's amazing. I was just trying to get one financial advisor to talk to me 20 years ago. And now I have a great network, and it's growing, and people seek me out. And so those are so somewhere along the way, what I saw was I do have a good ability to go out and meet new people. When back in my early Chamber of Commerce days, you go trade business cards, you sit next to somebody. I would always try to sit next to somebody new. And then as you're doing that, you get those cards. And then what happens is we all go back to our office, we get busy again. And the reality is you chicken out. I don't call that person again. And so I started just doing that. I'm going to do what everybody's afraid of doing, which is picking up the card and saying, let's have coffee. And that was the beginning. I now have a technique that I've been using lately, which is a little bit psycho, but if somebody links in with me or requests a link in and they're local, I accept it and I immediately find their phone number and I call them. And I invite them to do a one-on-one. And then I do have a networking event. Michael, you referenced, I do my Duchess Happy Hour Masterminds. The Duchess is the name of our boat that my wife and I have. Happy hours are self-explanatory. In the masterminds, I get 3 to 5 business professionals out on the boat for a happy hour from 2 to 5 o'clock. We do this. Season starts next month. We'll do a 15 to 25 cruises a year. And that always gives me an ability to go, hey, I got this cool thing. And so, like, for instance, so I only have 2 rules for the boat. You have to be an A player to get on, and there's no business cards allowed. I don't want people selling like their service right there. I make the assumption that if you're a good person, people will want to do business with you, right? It's a relationship first. I learned a long time ago from a mentor of mine, we make decisions emotionally and back them up rationally. So if emotionally someone likes me, well, then they'll find all kinds of rationale as to why they should work with me. But it doesn't go the other way. And so that's been, so like yesterday, literally had this happen yesterday. Marinelle and I, my wife Marinelle, we made a donation some number of years ago to a local charity. I think they've been kind of on my annual giving group of charities. And so I get a call and they're like, hey, we're calling, we're reaching out to past donors and we're just interested. We'd like to take you out to coffee. And I'm like, I'm not the right, that'd be a waste of time for them. They should be calling bigger donors than me. But as the lady's talking, I could tell she's trying to meet other people in the community. And I said, well, I got this thing. And next thing you know, she's coming out on my May 15th Duchess Mastermind. It's a new person in my network. And when she comes out to that event, she's meeting with 3 or 4 other people, all of which are raising her emotional opinion of me and building relationship. And so now, I don't know, maybe 3 years from now, she decides to buy a house. I'll bet you I get a call. And so those are those kind of seeds that this allows me to have fun. Because, coming out of the pandemic, I was boating a lot and I didn't want to stop. And this also it's something that no one else is doing.
Yeah, so there's a lot of brilliance. I was taking frantic notes if you couldn't tell. So, a few things that I love is one, how you describe yourself when you introduce yourself. And that's something we could probably dig into a whole episode on. But the biggest thing I think, Peter, for you is you aren't looking at any of this as really selling. You're looking at all of it as connecting and finding efficient ways to do that through your Duchess, which I love the name of that, by the way. So I think that what my takeaways are from that for our audience is, are there ways that you can connect that makes it easy for you and comfortable for you in an environment that's going to connect others, but also elevate your business in a really creative way? And that's one thing I really love. How did you come up with the Duchess Mastermind concept?
I came out of the pandemic, like we literally all were working from home and everybody forgot how to go out and have lunch or do a happy hour or coffee or whatever it might be. So there's part of it where it's like, and that was actually one of my pre-pandemic, that was one of my skills. I have a friend, we literally compete to be the best networkers we know. So it's like, how do I get back to that? The other reality is I knew I didn't want to do it the old way. I didn't want to just do the straight one-on-ones. One-on-ones, like in the off season with the Duchess, I think I do some other things with it. There's probably about 115, 120 people who have attended over the last 3 years. And you gotta think those are all A players. And in the off season, I do a one-on-ones with anyone that wants to. So I'm just finishing that up. I've done like 55 of those between the middle of February and now, so in the middle of April. So in 2 months. So it's a lot of lunch and a lot of drinks. But I'm not doing those one-on-ones with people who are brand new to me. So these are more like reconnects, and those are a lot easier lunches than trying to make impressions all in that one-on-one lunch. One of the benefits of doing something in a group is you have those moments in conversation where it's like, oh man, this is like, there's a little stall or awkwardness. Well, now if I have 2 or 3 other people there, someone else can pick it up. And furthermore, if I have 2 or 3 other really smart people there, I don't even have to be the smartest person. People make the assumption that I am because I put all these smart people together. And I'm not the smart guy. I'm the smart facilitator. Often the analogy that I see when I'm out doing a mastermind is I am the talk show host. I'm the one asking good questions. I have a topic of the day. I email out to the crew. I kind of use these different nautical terms. So it's the crew that's going out for the day. We do I email them the day before like 2 questions to consider. One's usually a business question. The other one is often a more philosophical question. And with the group, you never quite know, because when I first started doing this, I was really trying to shape the group, like making sure I'm not inviting people from the same industry, kind of mixing it up. But as time's gone on, that's just become a little bit harder to manage. But asking the good questions or posing good questions are really important, and having that one that's business related. Sometimes a group, it's that they all dig in on that and they just go nuts for an hour. And other times that business question just lands flat. And having that philosophical challenging, like, if you were to die, if you were to know that you were going to die in 24 hours and you couldn't tell anyone, what would you do? And just kind of watching the group go. I mean, literally, we've had everything from tears to joy and everything that happens on the boat. When you think about that, you start going, all right, like Kathryn, you and I met in La Jolla, and you're sitting around and it's like, well, where did your relationship get formed? Was it when you're sitting in the coaching room? And it's like, maybe, but we were doing a lot of, you know, this isn't a nice term, but we're doing the belly button staring of like working on ourselves. But then when we're sitting around at dinner or at the fire after, that's where the relationship happens.
Mm-hmm.
And so for me, if I can help people have those connections, then the next day after the cruise, I now email the crew each other's email signatures, so they do get each other's contact information. And then it's on them. If they want to connect from there, they can do that.
Mm-hmm.
And the benefit to I'm working on a book, which is a different topic, but I think there's a book one day in my future around networking, because that part of, now they're connecting. I just had one of my best referral sources ever. He's a partner at a CPA firm. We're really good friends. Literally he's statistically significant within my business. He says to me the other day, oh, I'm having lunch with this other financial advisor. Like, oh yeah, he goes, yeah, he's been referring me quite a few clients lately. And I went, well, how do you know him? Because it turns out that financial advisor is somebody my family works with.
Mm-hmm.
And he looks at me and I look at him, and then I'm like, and I get this huge smile. I'm like, oh my gosh, you guys met on the Duchess. Right there, like, so what that did for me in that relationship building is I don't have a referral for my CPA friend every day. I don't even have one every year. Like, he does high net worth tax returns. Their starting fee is like $8,000. That's a rare error client. But that financial advisor has people who fit that. And I put them together on the Duchess. And now when they start working together, who gets the credit for that? At least some portion of it goes back to me. And that is my networking. I mean, I should say the big disclaimer is none of this is unique stuff. It's just stuff I've picked up along the way from different coaches and mentors, and now it's all coming together in me.
Yeah, Peter, you're humble enough to say it's not unique, so I'll give you that. But I think the old phrase is, it's not what you say, it's how you say it. You have a very natural way in which you understand the concept of what I think some folks in BNI like to call the giver's gain, except you didn't need a BNI chapter to teach you that. It's just natural to you. You're like the classic banking analogy. You understand that in order to have any net worth, you have to start with deposits and you have to compound the interest before you can start making withdrawals or even borrowing from time to time. Those things benefit from the deposits first and the growth. And you're doing that with real relationships. The beauty of it is it's natural to you. You're not over baking the concept. You're just doing what makes sense. And so you're right, it may not be revolutionary to our audience. They've maybe heard this before. What I hope they're realizing is don't overcomplicate these strategies. These strategies work when you actually keep them simple and you remain genuine. And that's what I hear is a lot of that.
Michael, I guess in a way, like the market as it is currently, when you have interest rates that are somewhere above or below 7%, there is business to be done, but there's a lot less of it. So the benefit to growing your relationship right now is you can come across as, I'm just here to provide more relationship as opposed to I'm trying to sell something today. Because right now, the sale of expensive money is a lot like not everybody's looking for that. So there is a spot of, if I was saying at LOs going, how would you go do something like this, is keeping in mind that not everybody needs what you're selling right now, but you want them to remember you when they do. And so that happens through that relationship building tool.
So there's so many good things here, and I want to bring out a couple. So one, I love the questions that you've been able to have people think through or discuss at the event, because I think sometimes the conversation can get so sideways and people actually leave a boat or leave an event not really connecting with people. So I just want to make sure that our audience hears the brilliance in this, is that you can ask questions that help you or your group connect in a different way. And I think, again, that's something that Peter has just done naturally. And it might be because you're like, I don't want the conversation. I don't want to have to come up with something. So it's been great. That's a great strategy.
And here's how it developed. It was inflation. Is it transitory? That was my first question. I'm having different professionals. So my thought was that if you bring people from different industries, some are business owners, some are financial advisors, some might be CPAs, some might be realtors, titled, escrow, whoever it is coming out, we all have our unique perspective on where is inflation? Is it transitory? We remember that word. Now we kind of laugh about it. So for like 6 cruises in a row, I asked the same question. And I would also say that everybody knows that we're going to have a conversation. The boat benefits us in that we kind of cruise for about 45 minutes. You might have a beer or two or a glass of wine or two. So that helps loosen the crew up a little bit. So then we're getting into the questions. Well, then I started thinking, man, I'm spending a lot of time and I'm building this greater crew, this community, and I'm not touching. How do I interact with them again without necessarily having them back out on the boat? And what happened was that turned into something I called Heard This Week on the Duchess. And I'm not a great writer, but I write a lot. I've been doing something I call talking points, which I send to my real estate agent database every Saturday morning. I've been doing that for 12, 13 years. And it's just 2 or 3 talking points. Like if you were walking an elevator and you needed something to talk about, I'm helping you have a couple of those so out of that, I went, this Duchess thing, we have people saying great, insightful things. And so I've played around with it. Sometimes I have people ranking their business, like, how's your business look now? So now as people are reading this email that I send out, I get told by past crew members, they're like, Peter, when you send this, I read it every week. Every week you send it is my favorite thing to read. And it's just a man on the street reporting of what the conversation was. So sometimes it is around philosophical things, and other times it is like, how's your business? And then I'm saying somebody in this industry says they're at a 9. Somebody in this industry says they're at a 3. And here's why. And so that became another extension of value that I could give back to the crew. So by you participating, the greater crew is getting benefit. And so one of those things that then rolled into that was then I had a whole group of people to go, we're going to do this life planning event that Michael referenced, and I had, 30, 40 people showing up that were like, yeah, Peter leads good stuff. Let's see what that is. And that was quite successful.
What I think is great is it when you first hear about it, you're like, oh, great, it's this boat ride, right? And then you start digging in, and it's like, okay, he preps ahead of time. He has this list. He is really strategic about every single part of it. And then post ride, here's what it looks like. And then here's the newsletter that's written from it. And so you've taken one small thing and essentially ballooned it into all of these great ideas that really help you connect continuously and keep those relationships probably for your lifetime.
One of the kind of maybe insights I would share is that one, the how you host an event, yeah, as insignificant as the boat leaving on time and the boat getting back to the dock on time, or hey, the beer is cold and the wine's nice, and the food's well prepared, and it's not just kind of slopped out. All those attention to details. My boat, I take pride on having the prettiest boat on the dock. Like, it's got to be clean all the time. And the reason I believe that is those people are getting that impression of me, and they start making this assumption, well, he must be good at what he does, because look how much detail and attention he puts into the things such as crackers. And so to take that one step further, and this is just maybe a networking nugget, when I'm doing one-on-ones, so in Seattle, geographically, there's a great big lake that divides Seattle from the east side, and different, like the Seattle people very rarely like to go to the east side, and east side people are a little bit more flexible, but barely. And so when I'm scheduling lunches, I do lunch at the same restaurant on both Seattle and the east side. So I have one restaurant for each meeting. I park at the same level in the parking garage each time. I for the first couple of years at each restaurant, I would make reservations, even though the restaurants, I always do like a hotel, a restaurant associated with a hotel, because they're open like for breakfast, lunch, and dinner. By contract, they have to be. So I don't have to worry about, are they closed today or are they not, kind of thing. And so really what I'm working to doing is making the only variable the person I'm meeting with. And that allows me to focus more on them. And then if I am running a little late, or there's something that's being rushed, I can make up for that because I know exactly what's on the menu. I order the same thing every time. I'm actually an adventurous eater, but for these things, it's just one less thing I have to think about. Mm-hmm. And now what it also does is with the staff where I'm, that restaurant, they all know my name, which adds more credibility to me when I'm sitting down and they go, "Oh, hi, Peter, how are you today?" The usual. And that person I'm sitting with is like, "Man, this must be somebody." I'm not anybody. I just do the same thing over and over. But they don't know that. So now they all do, because I told you guys. But anyway, I think it's
we'll keep it between us, Peter.
Yeah.
It'll be your secret. It's safe.
But it's important to make sure that once you find that thing that's working for you, keep doing that. And because that while sometimes I think it gets a little boring for us on the side of doing it, the people you're meeting with don't pick up on it. In fact, what they pick up on is your confidence.
So
yeah, Peter, Kathryn, I'm just going to comment real quick, and I'll let you get to it. Peter, I'm really impressed by something that has occurred to me. This is really next level networking. And it's not just next level because the Duchess is a beautiful boat. And yes, folks, it's as pristine and clean as Peter describes it. It's beautiful. But it's not because of the boat. The boat is a vehicle.
Right.
The restaurant is a vehicle to serve food. You're really thinking through the intentionality of what would that guest feel when they leave, and try to anticipate that in a way that is real and meet their expectations, if not exceed them. And every time you do just that simple thing, you're making the deposit in that person's mind that, wow, if
100%.
Peter's thinking of this, he's probably thinking of a lot more things when I need him for the really important things. And I hope our audience is getting that. I know that's intuitive and natural to you, but I hope our audience realizes this is not the Wizard of Oz. We're not hiding behind a curtain pulling strings. We're laying it right out there in the open of, any of you who are listening. Like Kathryn said earlier, I hope you're taking notes, because this is a masterclass in next level networking. Sorry, Kathryn, I jumped in.
Yeah, the only thing I was going to add was that there are certain pieces of our job we can control, and there's a lot of pieces of our job we cannot control. So what Peter has done is say, hey, here's the parts that can make my job easier. I'm going to control the restaurant. I'm going to control what I order. I'm going to control where I park. And it's going to make everything else easier. Yeah, the first few times it's still going to be difficult, but after that, it's going to be easy. And so make those easy things easy so that you're ready for the conversation and you can ease into that so much better. So that's the part I just didn't want people to miss.
I know we're running on time here, but I'm going to share one other that if I might, with when I was much younger. I think I was 29, 30 years old, and so for loan officers listening to this that are in their markets, there's a lot of private clubs that maybe have social memberships or junior executive memberships. So what they might cost to join, if you're over 40, is significantly less. And I joined something called the Harbor Club, which is no longer in existence. But they had, one of the benefits of the club, they were in the top of two big skyscrapers, one in Seattle, one in Bellevue. So one on the west side, one on the east side. And so that was great, because it was that exactly what you just described, Kathryn. It was just like, I knew all the variables. Being the young person, this was a club where like you're wearing jackets and they just did lunch and drinks, but most people didn't get to go there. So just that like, hey, like, would you like to join me? People were more likely to say yes. It's again when I'm the young kid. And so then when that person who, when you're 29, 30 years old, everybody's your senior, especially the people you want referring you business. And now you're in the club, and like that club, I was referred to as Mr. Zevenbergen. People made a bunch of assumptions about the level of my success and my age, though none of which were true at that point. And so and I would do Harbor Club weeks where my goal was to have a breakfast, a coffee, a lunch, and drinks. I would do this. So that was 4 events, and I'd try to fill out 20 slots in the course of a week. And then the next week, I would work on filling out my calendar for the following week. And so that was a grind, but that was my way of, like, because there again, I wasn't having to get up and leave and go to the next meeting. I think coffee shops are a terrible place to try to network, because there are no variables. Everything's a variable. Can I find parking? Does the person know how to make a cup of coffee? Is there a seat for us to sit in? I'm getting old. I can't hear if there's background noise. There's just all kinds of stuff that goes like that are out of my control. And so I would encourage, if somebody's new to this and looking, I would encourage them to maybe look around at, what different clubs are in there. This could be a golf club, a yacht club, there's social clubs, there's dinner clubs. Certain towns have speakeasies and these kinds of things. Go check those out. That very well could be a thing that would be the beginning of you starting some type of controlled networking environment.
Peter, I'm going to draw a conclusion on today's episode and remind our audience that if you enjoyed any value out of the nuggets that Peter has shared, I hope that not only will you share this episode with some others who might need to hear it. Heck, this might even become an episode you share at a sales meeting with your team, because what Peter's describing, you're never going to be able to compete with him on. But if you took something from it and applied it in your world today and applied it in your way, you could actually run his playbook. It's not that what he's sharing is complicated, but listen to what he said over the last 21 years. It's been consistent, and it's always thinking about the other person first, their experience and what they'll take away from it. And when you compound that over 21 years, Peter, you've really developed a beautiful network. And I happen to believe, you referenced when you were a younger guy, as if you're now, old man Zevenbergen here. I've got a good feeling you've got a lot of runway ahead of you, in which the best years of this strategy have yet to even pay off, because I think some of the things you're going to get to do are an episode we need to bring you back for, which is, now how does that play out when you're working with clients who are now raising kids that need to buy homes, and those kids need to figure out, in a market like you live in, how do I do this? And mom and dad have maybe some basic ideas. You've been able to multiply their options by presenting different strategies. Would you be open to it? Would you come back and tell us more about that version of your strategy?
Tell you more about that.
All right, great. Then you heard it here, folks. We'll have part 2 with Peter Zevenbergen in the future. Kathryn, any closing thoughts before we wrap today?
You know what I love about Peter is he's somehow figured out his strengths and really learned to lean into those. And so that's something to think about. Hey, what comes naturally to me? There's a way to apply it to your business. And I think that's what Peter has done so beautifully. So thanks so much for joining us. It was amazing and a pleasure. And I have a ton of notes. So now I want to think through that on my own. So thank you so much for being here. We appreciate it.
Thank you. Good to see you both.
I'll put a wrap on today's episode of Building Bigger Lives with Michael Regan and Kathryn Peterson. Our guest today was Peter Zevenbergen. And as we always say, find us on your favorite podcast platform. If you're into watching us on video, you'll see that drop on our YouTube channel at Building Bigger Lives. And we look forward to seeing you on an episode very soon.